Fired up. Let's do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are. Have fun. Take a deep breath.
Give them hell at the end. You like this?
Fight like hell like we do every week. You are the best here. Brett, be affirmative. You told me to get on.
Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14th. What the f*** is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah! 11 got it.
Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys.
Welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark, and welcome to Martinsville weekend. Yes, I'm super excited because I actually get to go back to Martinsville. Missed the last 2 years because of some COVID restrictions and just not having the right timing to go, but finally get to go back, get to go hang out with my best friend for the weekend, and super excited. So getting this video out today, and I'm going to hit the road and head to Danville and Martinsville and watch all 3 series at Martinsville. So super excited. We'll hopefully post pictures, and we'll talk about it next week. But this week we're talking about Martinsville. Actually, before we do that, make sure you hit the like, subscribe button, share with anybody that you know that likes NASCAR and DraftKings, so I can potentially give them some information to help build better lineups, and hopefully they can win some money. But let's take a quick glance at last week. Kansas. Once again, Kyle Larson stunk up the show. Don't think we're going to see that this weekend. Just a preview of what we're going to look at. But Kyle Larson won again, and he is on a tear, to say the least. With that win, he also, as we will see, wins the Optimal Lineup Challenge for 2021 season. Pretty good competition between Daniel Suarez, Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, and of course any of these other guys have an outside shot, potentially maybe even Martin Truex, who probably is going to be the favorite for this weekend. But other than that, the optimal lineup from last weekend looks like we have 2 to 3 dominators. I think I said to the lineup for 2, and we had 3 place differential guys, and all 3 of those place differential guys were value picks. To get the optimal lineup, you had to spend all $50,000, which doesn't happen that often. It does happen, but not as often as you would think. So 348.05 points, and Kyle Larson led the way with 93.7. Started first, finished first, led 130 of 267 laps. So almost half of the laps were led by Kyle Larson. That's a pretty dominating performance. Didn't have a whole lot of fast laps. They were kind of spread out amongst the top kind of like 4 or 5 guys. But either way, Parker Kligerman. That was one of my almost chew-in picks for the week last week, if you listened to the broadcast. But Parker Kligerman starting 40th and finishing 20th, and ran really consistent and just a clean race all day. I don't think he had a scratch on it after the weekend. So good for Parker. Good to see him back in Cup Series. Really just genuinely nice guy, and he's actually a really funny follow on Twitter, Instagram, and stuff like that. So, but the real reason you guys come to watch my channel, at least I think, other than looking at my silly face, is the driver by driver breakdown. But let's take a look at Martinsville Speedway. I think this will end up being my 50th Cup race at Martinsville this weekend. It's either 49 or 50. I lost track a while back, but we're almost at the half-century mark. But Martinsville is 2 drag strips with 2 U-turns. It's pretty much the best way to describe it. It's a short, flat track. Track length is only 0.526, or better, just a half mile. 12 degrees in the corners, so little to no banking in turns 1 and 2. The other one that is somewhat similar is the New Hampshire track, where it's a mile long with about the same amount of banking. It does have a little bit of progression, but ends up being maybe 12 degrees. So same type of scenario, but this one's a lot smaller, a lot closer together, and there's not a bad seat in Martinsville. If you ever decide to go, it is a absolute great track to watch a race at. Same with Bristol. But this race is 500 laps. Dominator points are going to equal up to 350. Dominators you will have to have. Martin Truex has been the only Dominator before and led literally almost every stinking lap, and so is Brad Keselowski. But for the most part, we're looking at 2 Dominators, maybe even on the outside chance that there's 3. This one maybe we're looking for 3, which means we're going to have to dig pretty deep down to find some value and to find some place differential guys to get up and kind of balance our lineup, or at least be able to afford our lineups. So, but laps led 125 points, fast lap 225. Now the real reason, let's do the driver by driver breakdown. Kyle Larson, most expensive for DraftKings, which I was a little shocked at and surprised at. He does okay here. He does not do great here. I expect Kyle, if he's going to lead the first few laps, they're going to have a competition caution because they're not doing practice and qualifying. I expect after that point, so probably lap 25 to 50, they'll throw the competition caution. I just don't think Kyle being locked in with 2 races, now he's going to have nothing else to lose but go after wins. So if he ends up having that's the other problem, is he could go after a win and potentially, mess with other drivers and get himself into trouble. I don't like the pole position here. I don't like Kyle Larson here. He's my favorite driver. I've been a Kyle Larson fan for 15 years, ever since I watched him do some late modified stock or everything else that he was doing before he got into trucks and Xfinity and now Cup. But I just don't like him in this position or at this track. He's got 3 starts in the last 5 where he's got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, and 3 top 20s, a 39.6 DraftKings average, a 10.7 average finish, 8th on the power ranking. He did not race in this same race last year because he was still on suspension, but did finish 5th here in the spring race. Out of his 12 total starts here at Martinsville, he's got 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, and 8 top 20s. So I'll have a sprinkling of Kyle just in case he does go out and lead 400 laps or something silly. But I will not have him in much more than probably 10 or 15% of my lineups. Here's the real person that I think could stink the show up completely, and he has to get a win to get into the final championship round in Phoenix the following weekend. Is Martin Truex Jr., 11,400, starting 4th, number 1 on the power ranking. He's got 3 wins here in the last 5 starts, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s, 103.4 DraftKings average, and a 6.6 average finish. He did finish 22nd here in the fall race last year and finished 1st here in the spring race this year. Out of his 31 total starts, he's got the 3 wins, 8 top 5s, 14 top 10s, and 19 top 20s. Martin has just been dominant for the most part at Martinsville. So he is my number 1 pick. I think he potentially could go stink up the show. It's either he's going to stink the show up or he's going to finish 30th. More than likely, he's going to stink up the show. But there's some other drivers that are going to try to get in his way. William Byron, being outside of the playoffs completely, has nothing else to lose but go for wins. Could create a wrinkle in the whole picture. $11,000 this week, starting 11th. So there's a little PD upside here for William. He's been running really, really well at least the 1.5 mile tracks and some of the road courses we've been to recently here in the playoffs. If he had just made it to the next round, I think he would definitely be a contender to make it to Phoenix. 10th on the power ranking. He does have 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, and 3 top 20s in the last 5 starts here at Martinsville, a 38.4 DraftKings average and a 14.2 average finish. He finished 35th here in this race last year and 4th in the spring race this year. So I'm listing both, mostly because so you have to understand what this race means. You're going to have 8 guys that are going to be vying for, well, not 8 guys, because Kyle Larson's already locked in. But and Chase Elliott's probably good on points, and Denny Hamlin's probably good on points. So there's 5 guys battling for one spot to make it to Phoenix. Now, that doesn't mean these guys don't go out and race them, but they may be a little bit cautious when they get around them. They're not going to do a bump and run just to get a position, and they're not going to bump somebody out of the lead to take the lead when that person, like a Ryan Blaney is fighting, or Martin Truex is fighting for that win to get themselves locked into the next round. Williams not going to go and do that, but so there's some things to look here in the 8 drivers that are in the playoffs that are going to trying to get the Final Four at Phoenix. You race them a little bit differently. You race them a little bit more cautious and a little bit more careful. So William Byron could be in that boat. If he can get himself out front, I think he could easily continue to go and win. If he ends himself marred up and he may not want to fight with other playoff drivers or, cause an accident or things of that nature. Williams had ups and downs at Martinsville, but this year he's been really good, so I expect him to probably finish fairly well this weekend. 35th, that's why I've got these 2 different races shown. I've got last year's race, which was the one before the finals. So it shows some of what they did when there was a lot of pressure. Not that there's not pressure every weekend, but a lot more pressure on that fall race last year as compared to the spring race this year. Guys are not willing to do, now the playoff drivers are willing to do anything to get themselves into Phoenix, but drivers like William Byron who are outside looking in, if they're out front, they're going to try to stay out front. If they're mired in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, they're not going to push the limits too much. So 35th last playoff race last year for William, and 4th in the spring race. 7 total starts at Martinsville. Hopefully I explained that all correctly. If not, leave a comment and let me know. But 7 total times William Byron has raced here at Martinsville. 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, and 4 top 20s. Next in line, Denny Hamlin, who used to be almost kind of like Martin Truex, was the absolute king of Martinsville for a long time, along with Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. There have been a handful of drivers, when they figure this track out, they just are dominant here. 10,700, and Denny has been one of those. Starting 3rd, 2nd on the power rankings this week. Does not have one in the last 5, but very consistent. 3 top 5, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 62.6 DraftKings average, and a 9.4 average finish. He finished 11th in the fall race last year that got him into the playoffs by 1 point, and finished 3rd here in the spring race. He's got 31 total starts at Martinsville, 5 wins, 16 top 20s, 22 top 10s, and 26 top 20s. Denny's very, very good here at Martinsville. Kyle Busch, somebody else who's not as shabby, 10,400. He is starting 7th, 6th on the power ranking. Does not have a win in the last 5, but has 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s. He has a DraftKings average of 40.1 DraftKings average and a 11.0 average finish. The reason I have to keep looking over to the side because my camera's blocking Kyle Busch's numbers. But finished 9th here in the fall race last year and 10th in the spring race. He has 2 wins total at Martinsville out of his 32 total starts, 16 top 5s, 19 top 10s, and 25 top 20s. Next driver is Chase Elliott, 10,100, starting 2nd. Chase is pretty good at this track too, as we will see. 3rd on the power ranking, 1 win in the last 5, which was the win in the fall race from last year, which locked him into the Final Four for Phoenix last year, where he went on to win the championship. And out of his last 5 starts here, he's got the 1 win, 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s, 70.3 DraftKings average, and 9.2 average finish. He finished 1st here in the fall race last year and 2nd here in the spring race. Chase Elliott has figured this track out and could easily find himself in victory lane this weekend. He does have the 1 win out of his 12 total starts here at Martinsville, 5 top 10s, 7 top 5s, 7 top 10s, and 9 top 20s out of his 12 starts. All right, next in line here, we've got Ryan Bladey, 9,700, starting 8th and 4th on the power ranking. Ryan might be as consistent as Chase Elliott, if not potentially even more consistent in the last 5 starts at Martinsville, 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s, a 69.7 DraftKings average, and a 4.8 average finish. That's the best in the field. As we saw, Martin Truex has the best DraftKings average. But Ryan has raced at Martinsville 11 times. Let's look at his finishes the last 2. 2nd in the fall race last year and 11th in the spring race this year. 11 total starts at Martinsville with 5 top 5s, 6 top 10s, and 10 top 20s. So only once has he finished outside the top 20. I mean, he's definitely going to need to finish in the top 8 to really be beneficial to us, which I think he easily could do. He could easily finish top 3, if not get his first win. All right, next in line here, we've got Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney's teammate. 9,500, starting 5th and 7th on the power ranking. Joey's very consistent at Martinsville and one of his favorite tracks. He does not have a win in the last 5, but has 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s, a 55.1 DraftKings average, and an 8th place average finish. He finished 3rd here in the fall race last year and 6th in the spring race. Did lock himself into the round of the final 4 last year at this race by finishing 3rd. He has 25 total starts here at Martinsville with 1 win, 8 top 5s, 13 top 10s, and 20 top 20s. Next in line, the last of the Penske drivers, Brad Keselowski, 9,300, starting 6th, 5th on the power ranking. Does have one win in the last 5 with 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s, 68.1 DraftKings average, and an 8.8 average finish. Finished 4th here in the fall race last year and 33rd in the spring race earlier this year. 23 total times around the tricky little track at Martinsville, better known as the Paperclip. Has 2 wins out of his 23 total starts, 11 top 5s, 16 top 10s, and 19 top 20s. Pretty consistent. All right, next in line here, we've got Kevin Harvick, $9,000, starting 9th and 9th on the power ranking. Kevin is fairly consistent here at Martinsville. Not as good as the guys that we've already talked about, but in his last 5 starts here, he has no top 5s, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s, a 37.8 DraftKings average, and a 10.8 average finish. He finished 17th here in the race last year and missed the playoffs after winning something like 7 or 8 races last year and ended up getting knocked out and not into the Final 4 last year. Did finish 9th here in the spring race. He has raced 39 times at Martinsville, does have 1 win, 5 top 20s, 20 top 10s, 32 top 20s. All right, next in line here, we've got Alex Bowman, 8,700, starting 13th and 20th on the power ranking. Alex is still trying to figure this track out. But in the last 5 races here, he has no top 5s, 2 top 10s, and 3 top 20s, a 24.5 DraftKings average, 18.0 average finish. He finished 6th here in the fall race last year and 34th in the spring race. 11 total times he's started at Martinsville with no top 5s, 3 top 10s, and 5 top 20s. Don't love his starting spot for this week. With his average finish, I'll have a sprinkling of Alex, but not a ton. Next in line here, we've got Christopher Bell, 8,400, starting 12th and 11th on the power ranking. Christopher Bell has started 3 times at Martinsville with only 1 top 10, 2 top 20s, a 34.5 DraftKings average, and a 16.7 average finish. He finished 15th here in the fall race last year, and remember, he was driving the 95 car and not the 20. So with Joe Gibbs racing, he finished 7th here, which is probably to be expected since Joe Gibbs cars and Penske cars are so very good here. I think pretty much we're looking at winners coming out of either Joe Gibbs, winners coming out of either Joe Gibbs, Penske, or Hendrick this weekend, which is pretty much what we've seen all year. But they are all three very consistent here and always show up to run well. Hendrick has dominated this track for many, many years until Penske and Joe Gibbs have done recently well. Either way, Christopher Bell, 3 total starts here with 1 top 5, 2 top 10s. Next in line, we've got Tyler Reddick, 8,200, starting 18th. Tyler Reddick is not that great at Martinsville. So 22nd on the power ranking, has 3 total starts here. He's just not good at short track racing yet. He'll figure it out. He's much better at the high banked, high speed tracks. But 3 total starts here, has 1 top 10, 2 top 20s, a 27.9 DraftKings average, and a 16.0 average finish. Finished 24th here in the fall race last year and 8th in the spring race earlier this year. 3 total starts, as we talked about, with 1 top 10, 2 top 20s. Next in line, Eric Almirola, $8,000, starting 23rd, 12th on the power ranking. Now remember, this track is somewhat similar to the only win that Eric had earlier this year at New Hampshire. So, sure, he's probably going to bring a similar style setup, and I expect Eric to actually perform fairly well here. Probably our first driver that I really like for place differential, starting 23rd. Out of the last 5 starts here at Martinsville, he's got 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s, a 20.5 DraftKings average, and a 21.2 average finish. I know those don't sound great, but just a kind of a gut feeling that I have about Eric at this track. He finished 7th here in the fall race last year and 20th at the spring race earlier this year. 22 total starts here at Martinsville with 1 top 5, 5 top 10s, and 16 top 20s. Really good about finishing the top 20, hence starting 23rd, giving him a pretty good power ranking, some PD upside potential. All right, Kurt Busch, 7,900, starting 10th, power ranking of 14th. Kurt should do fairly well here. He has done fairly well in the past with the last 5 races here at Martinsville. He's had 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, and 4 top 20s. He also has a DraftKings average of 40.9 and an average finish of 10.6. So his average finish is about where he's starting, and I expect him probably to get inside the top 10. So looking more here for a finishing position driver for Kurt Busch, not necessarily a dominator or PD upside, but I think he's just going to be pretty consistent and probably end up finishing right around where he is starting. He finished 5th here in the fall race last year and 21st in the spring race earlier this year. 41 total starts here at Martinsville with 2 wins, 4 top 5s, 9 top 10s, and 24 top 20s. Next grouping here, we've got Matt DiBenedetto, 7,700. Starting 21st, 16th on the power ranking. Ever since Matty D got with Wood Brothers Racing, which is out of Stewart, Virginia, which is about an hour up the road, this is kind of their home track, and they always come ready to try to win. Hence, since he's been racing at the Wood Brothers, Matty D has performed very well at Martinsville. Too bad he won't be there next year. So next year, look at Harrison Burton to do pretty well here in the Wood Brothers car. But either way, he has in the last 5 starts, he's got 2 top 10s, 5 top 20s, 35.4 DraftKings average, 13th place average finish. He finished 10th in the fall race last year and 12th in the spring race this year. Both of those were with Wood Brothers. 13 total starts here at Martinsville with 2 top 5s and 2 top 10s and 5 top 20s. Next in line, we've got Bubba Wallace, 7,600. Bubba's only other win in the Truck Series came at Martinsville. So Bubba knows how to win here at Martinsville. For all you people who just think it was just a super speedway race where Bubba could win, he actually has won here at Martinsville. Bubba is 7,600, starting 17th, so a little bit of PD upside potential here for Bubba. 15th on the power ranking, has 4 top 20s in the last 5 starts with a 41.4 DraftKings average and a 15.6 average finish. He finished 21st here in the fall race last year and 16th in the spring race. And remember, last year was in Petty equipment, and the 16th was in a 2311/Joe Gibbs equipment. 7th 7 total times he has started at Martinsville in the Cup Series and has 4 top 20s. Next in line here, we've got Ross Chastain, who I don't have a whole lot of high hopes for this weekend, but we'll see if he can do better than what his averages are showing. Won't have a whole lot of them because I don't like his starting position. 7,400, starting 16th, 25th on the power ranking, our first driver in the caution Will Robinson area. 3 starts in the last 5 races here at Martinsville with only 1 top 20, a 21.8 DraftKings average, and a 26.7 average finish. Hence why I'm not real keen on taking Ross Chastain. Did not race here in the fall race last year, but finished 17th in the spring race earlier this year. 5 total starts here at Martinsville with only 1 top 5. Next in line, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 7,200, starting 25th, and I do like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. this week for a PD upside play. 17th on the power ranking, 3 top 20s in the last 5 starts, 20.9 DraftKings average, and a 19.2 average finish. He finished 20th here in the fall race last year and 15th in the spring race. He's raced here 17 total times with 2 top 10s and 7 top 20s. Next in line here, we've got Ryan Newman, 7,100, starting 27th and 13th on the power ranking. Another really good PD upside play here. So I expect Ryan to hopefully finish much better than that, and his stats tell us he should. He has 1 top 10, 4 top 20s in the last 5 starts, along with a 31.9 DraftKings average and a 16.4 average finish. Finished 18th here in the fall race last year and 19th in the spring. 38 total starts here at Martinsville. He does have a win, 8 top 5s, 17 top 10s, and 31 top 20s. Next in line here, we have got Eric Jones, 6,900, starting 28th in the Richard Petty equipment, 18th on the power ranking. Remember, Eric is in the Petty equipment where he was in Joe Gibbs equipment, which does sway some of these stats a little bit, but Petty typically runs. The Petty group ends up running typically fairly well here, even though Eric Jones has finished last. This past spring was not really showing that. But anyway, I think Eric should probably finish fairly well this weekend. Good PD play upside, starting 28th, 18th on the power ranking, has 3 top 20s in the last 5 starts, 14.0 DraftKings average, and 22.4 average finish. He finished 12th here in the fall race last year and 30th in the spring. 9 total starts here at Martinsville with 5 top 20s. Next in line, Austin Dillon with the Cowboy Christmas car from Bass Pro Shops. So if you're looking for some Cowboy Christmas stuff, go to Bass Pro. Austin Dillon, 6,700, starting 14th. 24th on the power ranking, 1 top 20 in the last 5 starts, 24.0 DraftKings average, and an 18.5 average finish. Really good play this week though with that starting position. Finished 23rd in the fall race last year and 14th in the spring race earlier this year. 14 total starts at Martinsville with 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, and 9 top 20s. Cole Custer, 6,600, starting 21st, power ranking of 21st, has 3 total starts here in the last 5 with 2 top 20s, a 27.0 DraftKings average, 20th place average finish. Finished 13th in the fall last year and 18th in the spring race earlier this year. 3 total starts, as we talked about, with 2 top 20s. Next in the line, Daniel Suarez, 6,500, starting 20th, 29th on the power ranking. Another caution. Won't be having a whole lot of Daniel Suarez this week. Don't like his power ranking of 29th. But in the last 5 starts here at Martinsville, he's got 1 top 10, 1 top 20, 14.3 DraftKings average, 25.4 average finish. He finished 27th in the fall race last year and 32nd in the spring race earlier this year. 9 total starts with 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s. I don't really love that play, mostly because of his starting spot. If you were starting a little bit further back, maybe. But next in line, Chase Briscoe, 6,400, starting 22nd, 30th on the power ranking. This one may be a little bit skewed because we don't have a whole lot of data points for Chase. And he might finish in the teens. Don't love the play, don't hate the play. Either way, he finished 27th here this past spring and did not race in the fall race last year. So 1 total start here at Martinsville for Chase Briscoe. All right, next in line here, we've got Ryan Preece, 6,200, starting 26th. 26th on the power ranking. In the last 5 starts here at Martinsville, he's got 3 top 20s, a 23.6 DraftKings average, 19.6 average finish, finished 19th here in the fall race last year, and 36th in the spring. Out of his 6 total starts at Martinsville, he's got 3 top 20s. Potential PD upside here for Ryan Preece. I'll have a little sprinkling of him. Corey LaJoie, $6,000, starting 19th. Ooh, don't like that starting spot for Corey. 29th on the power ranking, hence their starting spot. In the last 5 starts here at Martinsville, he's got 2 top 20s, a 20.8 DraftKings average, 26.2 average finish, finished 25th here in the fall race last year, and 37th in the spring race. And out of his 7 total starts here at Martinsville, has 2 top 20s. Chris Buescher, 5,900, starting 27th. I do like the PD upside here for Chris Buescher. 15th on the power ranking, 3 top 20s in the last 5 starts, along with a 24.6 DraftKings average and 19.4 average finish. Finished 38th here in the fall race, but did finish 13th here in the spring. 12 total starts here at Martinsville with 5 top 20s. All right, next in line here, we've got Michael McDowell, 5,700, starting 28th, 19th on the power ranking. And out of his last 5 starts at Martinsville, only has 1 top 20, an 11.4 DraftKings average, 25.4 average finish. Finished 28th here in the fall race last year, and 31st in the spring race. I do like a little bit potential of Michael McDowell having some PD upside, and that's a big if. 18 total starts here at Martinsville with 3 top 20s. Next in line here, we have Justin Haley, our first driver in the red. 5,500, starting 32nd, has only started here at Martinsville once with no top 20s, and actually only 1 point DraftKings average for that one start, where he finished 35th. And with that one start, no top 20s. So let's just go on to the next driver. Next in line here, Anthony Alfredo, 5,400, starting 32nd, 23rd on the power ranking. Now, we don't have a whole lot of data on Anthony, just like we don't have a whole lot of information on Chase Briscoe. But I do like the PD upside here for Anthony, and I think he's just in better equipment than some of the other guys that he'll be starting around. With that one start here, he has a 28.2 DraftKings average and a 26th place average finish. And did not race in the fall race last year here, but finished 22nd in the spring race. And next in line here, okay, we're going to start scooting through these because I think the rest of these are all in the red, which you might have to dabble down into a couple of these guys. And we'll talk, there's this interesting scenario if you're going to play one of these guys that we'll talk about when we start talking about all of our Dominators PD upside guides towards the end of this video. But we'll cruise right through this. Garrett Smitley, 5,200. 3 total starts here. He's starting 37th and has a 36th place average finish. And Timmy Hill, 5,100, starting 38th, 31st on the power ranking. Timmy, potentially, because he's starting dead last, could be somebody that you could put into a lineup if we're needing to go down this low. But this is not who I was thinking about talking about. But not absolutely opposed to racing Timmy. They don't have really good equipment, and they have trouble staying in a race for the entire race because they have mechanical issues. But out of his 3 starts here, he does have an average finish of 34th and finished 29th here in the fall race last year. Next in line here, Joey Gase, 4,900, starting 34th, 37th on the power ranking, has an average finish out of his 2 starts of a 34.5. Cody Ware, this is somebody who we will be talking about. Absolutely do not love any part of this, but there's an interesting scenario we'll talk about. He is starting 31st and has an average finish of 32nd. Next in line, Quinn Hoff, 4,700, starting 36th. 3 total starts here at Martinsville and has a 30.3 average finish. I think if I remember correctly, he made the optimal lineup in the spring race. So these guys do occasionally make their way into an optimal lineup. It's just not very often. And I'm not sure that Quinn is the best play here today. And then I did finish 24th here in the spring race. 33rd last year. There might be some salary savings here, but God, it's so tough to play any of these guys. Next in line, Josh Bilicki, 4,600, starting 33rd, has an average finish of 27.5. And last but not least, BJ McLeod, 4,500, starting 30th, which is absolute just bad starting spot for BJ. So I'll have no interest in him. Average finish of 28th out of his 2 total starts. So before we get into our PD upside and all that type of stuff, let's take a look at what were the optimal lineups for previous races. So in the spring race, Denny Hamlin, as we see, was an absolute dominator, and Brian Blaney was right there with him. Now, Denny did end up with 145.45 points, and Brian Blaney only had 77 points, with Martin Truex coming in 74. So we had 2 dominators, 3 place differentials, 2 value guys, so that's anybody $7,500 or less. And as you can see, it was Josh Bilicki and Quinn Houff, which we just talked about. It's so tough to think about taking any of these guys. I mean, you see, they started 33rd and 29th and finished 23 and 24. So there was definitely some attrition in the spring race. But either way, to get to the optimal lineup, you had to spend all $50,000. Same thing with the fall race from last year, with one dominator being Chase Elliott, who led 236 of the 500 laps, almost half of them, had a points total day of 160.5. So when we look kind of at the breakdown, we had 3 place differentials, 3 values, that's anybody $7,500 or less, and 2 finishing positions. So if we spent all $50,000, so there's a lineup that had 2, not even really, maybe 1.1.1. So 1 real dominator with 2 of the guys that led laps and had fast laps, but they had just good finishing positions. All right, our next one we're going to look at is the spring race from last year, which another 500 lap race, always at Martinsville are 500 laps. Martin Truex, 108.1, started 5th, finished 1st, led 132 laps. Now Joey Logano probably thought he should have won that race. 234 laps led, with 124.95. So you don't always have to have the highest points getter. Sometimes is not the first place guy. So we had 2 dominators in this race, 2 place differentials, 2 values, and 4 guys that I put into the finishing spots. And those were the top 4. So, 2 value guys. That's what we're really looking for. We're looking for 2 to maybe one cheap dominator. Now, yeah, and then 1 just guy that's going to start making this up. So starts 6th and finishes 4th. Leads a few laps, but not a dominator. He's just going to get a lot of points just for finishing well. So the last race we're going to look at is the Martinsville Spring 2019 race, where it's actually the fall race. I mistyped that. It's the fall race from 2020, where you want to talk about a dominating day. Martin Truex started 3rd, finished 1st, led 464 of the 500 laps, and Denny Hamlin actually got 30 of those lead laps, and he must have done it right out of the gate, because he started on the pole, and then Martin Truex passed him and never looked back. So our breakdown is 1 dominator, almost 227 points. It's just, I think that might be the biggest points day for anybody since DraftKings has started. 3 place differential guys. All 3 of those were 3 value picks, and we had $400 left over. So our average salary is almost 45 to 40, or 49,500 to 49,600. The average points scored was 463, and the average starting spot is only 15.5. So we're not digging deep into the very back, unless you just happen to have to take some of these guys that are in the back that are cheaper, so you can load up on the top 3. I will have a couple of those lineups, but if we go back up and look You know, we're looking at starting spots of 29, 24. Now, this one had some a 35th and a 36, had a 33rd, 31st. So, I mean, one or two of these guys is going to start in the 30s. I think Ryan Preece may be that guy this week. But either way, Ryan Blaney, 4 times in the optimal lineup in the last 5 races. Same thing with Martin. Truex has got 3. And look at these average starting spots over to the right side of the screen. Average starting spot of 8th, 5th, 5th, 8th, 2nd, 5th, 5th. Then we kind of get down here. And most everybody, we're really kind of looking and honing in on some of these. The mid-20s is where we're kind of looking at getting some, maybe a little bit of value, but a little bit of PD upside with a little bit of finishing spots. So I think your focus really is going to be on finding those 1 or 2 dominators, and then kind of really hunting into those starting spots in the 20s. All right, so let's take a look at our dominators. I think Martin Truex, as we've just seen, the stats all lean towards him being the absolute dominator at Martinsville, at least over the last 4 to 5 races. Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott kind of in the same boat. Ryan Blaney is going to be hunting for that first win here and locking himself into the round of the Final 4 at Phoenix. And the same thing can be said with Brad, Kyle, and Joey. Kyle Larson's really the only one that's absolutely safe with his 2 wins at Texas and Kansas. And then I think an outside potential dominator, if he can get himself up there early enough, might be William Byron. But the place differential, guys, this is what we're looking at. We're looking at them in the mid-20s. Eric Almirola, 23rd. Matt DiBenedetto starting 21st. Ryan Newman starting 27th. Bubba Wallace starting 17th. Falls into this PD upside, where I think Bubba could end up with the top 10 here at Martinsville. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 25th, 28th for Eric Jones, 29th for Corey LaJoie, and Ryan Preece for 26th. The only driver I'm interested in potentially even starting really into the 30s is going to be Anthony Alfredo. As you can see over to the bottom left, our value guys and potential finishing guys. Really not a whole lot of value guys over here, but you know, Kurt Busch is very consistent and runs good races here. He's smart. Same thing with Christopher Bell. I think he's going to try to get up there and make a good charge. Kevin Harvick, I don't really love Kevin here, but I think the better plays than Kevin. And Alex Bowman may be one of those, even though Alex is still trying to figure this track out. But one of these races, it's going to click for him, and he's going to finish top 3 or even get the win. So I think it's only a matter of time. And now that Jeff Gordon's full-time over at Hendricks, who was one of the most dominant drivers here at Martinsville, I'm sure they're going to coach Alex up fairly well. So I don't mind playing Alex this week. But the interesting scenario here is you've got Cody Ware out of Rick Ware Racing driving the number 51. Well, the number 51 has finished outside the, I can't remember if it's the top 30 or top 35 in points. And it's really based, it's not based on Cody Ware's point value, it's the owner value points. And NASCAR is having some, it's not an issue, it's a good thing for the guys that own charters, is what they call it, which is a guaranteed spot into all the Cup races. Well, Cody Ware's number 51 has a charter, along with all these other cars, the 15, the 52, and the 53, all have charters that are all owned by Rick Ware Racing. Well, if your car finishes outside, I think it's the 35th spot in points. If your car finishes outside the 35th points spot at the end of the year, you can only do that 3 times before NASCAR could take the charter away. Well, Cody Ware is now sitting at 34th, or 1 spot to the good of this whole thing. So I don't see his teammates going up and passing him. Now, that's not great because he's starting 31st, so there's still a lot of potential PD downside. But Cody, I think, is going to go out. He's going to try to, number one, take care of his car, not break his car, not get in a wreck. But he's going to need to stay in the low 30s, or probably even try to get himself up to 25th, 26th, 27th. And I think my thought is Rick Ware's going to throw everything he can so he doesn't get the charter taken away. Because you get the charter taken away, it's just gone. NASCAR took it back. The NASCAR sold it to somebody else. Now, I don't know if they share in any of that profit, but right now, charters are going for somewhere in the ballpark of $10 to $15 million for a charter. Well, that's big money. When Brickware Racing, that would almost fund their team, the rest of those three guys, for the entire year next year. So Rick's not gonna let that go away easily. He's gonna throw money at this car, and the car is probably gonna end up being a fairly good running car. So that's the scenario I'm looking at here, and that's why I kind of highlighted him down in the bottom right. Just beware, if you're looking for maybe a really cheap alternative, none of these guys are safe by any means, and I definitely don't recommend taking them. But if you're gonna have to dip down that low, I would look at Cody Ware before I looked at any of these other three: Garrett Smithley, Josh Bilicki, or Joey Gase. So, just that scenario. Either way, we are down to it. Next to the last race of the year. I've had a great time putting these videos together. I've learned a lot. I learned how to make videos. I've learned how to try to talk a little bit better. I've learned about editing videos, because I don't know if you guys can tell, but I have to edit the poop out of these videos afterwards. It typically takes me about an hour and a half to maybe an hour and 15 minutes to make these videos, and then 45 minutes to edit it. But hopefully you enjoy it. I am going to try to do some different views for next year and things of that nature. But hey, I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button, subscribe. I'm going to try to put some content out over the course of the off season that'll help us get ready for next year. I'm probably going to try to do some maybe not DraftKings stuff, but some of the fantasy stuff that NASCAR puts together, which is, it doesn't cost any money to play that, but I find that maybe that content would be interesting in a different video, so I may try to put that together for next year. But either way, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you being here for the entire year, and 2 more races. This is it. Have a great weekend. I know I am going to have a great time in Martinsville, back to my home track. So enjoy the weekend. Good luck, guys. Make a lot of money, and we'll see you next weekend.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so got to be around at the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Hell yeah! Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work. Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job. Great job, guys. Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal, we got it here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.